It was all the way back in 2007 or so when an MMORPG first changed my life forever. I was an explorer in the then recently released Myst Online URU Live Again, an open source version of Myst Online that Cyan had recently turned over to the fans. I had never gotten to play URU Live when it was live, only ever in this version, and I was more than excited to enjoy it and finally find a home here. I wasn't the only one either. Many others had joined because they never got the chance to play URU Live either. Now, we all could, excitedly exploring new ages together and finally connecting as Myst fans in a brand new way within the Caverns we had all heard so much about. I had been a Myst fan for about 10 years by that point, and for me, it was heaven, a slice of paradise I cherished and wanted to log into almost every time something new happened, even though not much new ever happened. And then one day, something did happen. Something unexpected. You see, I knew at the time the game wouldn't be receiving any new content, and that it was all in the fans' care now. I didn't care, though. I was just happy to explore the Caverns for the first time in my life. But this time, when I linked out from my Relto to meet some friends underneath by the great stair overlooking Karath's Arch, something was off. Something felt different. Something was wrong. I heard it before I saw it. The roar of the link faded away as I found myself in the Caverns, and replacing it was a strange, alien shrieking. I instantly questioned what the sound was, being curious as all Myst fans are, and as I turned the corner to approach the docks, I saw people. Several other explorers, all standing on the steps and staring at Karath's Arch. Several were as bewildered as I was, and all of them were looking out over the vast lake before them, all at the same thing. That thing was a swarm of winged beings, fluttering in crazed circles around the arch. And the second I saw them, I instantly recognized them. These were Bahro, a vast enclave of Bahro, the mysterious creatures dwelling in the shadows that we never truly got to see up close for long, if ever. I knew them from my journeys, and from the lore I had read, but never had I seen so many all at once, and never sounding so angry. Fear gripped me at that point, a strange, liminal fear I didn't quite understand. They shouldn't be swarming. That shouldn't be possible. They shouldn't be active. Cyan wasn't updating the game anymore. Were they? Why is this happening? I asked the explorer on my left, turning in vague trepidation. Why are they swarming? Aren't they supposed to be gone? I don't know, they answered. I just don't know why. I soon had it explained to me that someone was messing around with the URU Live source code and had activated an environmental effect from the game's final days as an MMO. But in that moment, for one brief and glorious second, the Caverns showed me their magic, their awe, and their terror. For one brief moment, I was part of URU Live in a way I cherish, and in a way I will never forget.
URU Ages Beyond Myst, URU Complete Chronicles, Dirt, Mud Pie, Myst Online URU Live. Many names, many iterations, but always the same concept of a third-person real-time Myst game, powered by those who play it. This ambitious game, created by Cyan, then Cyan Worlds, to capitalize on new ideas and trends in gaming at the time, was, and still is, perhaps one of the greatest unsung stories of ambition, hubris, hope, and fandom rebirth in gaming history. And yet, it's really not discussed anymore today. It attempted to take puzzle adventure gaming in an ambitious new direction by bringing it into online multiplayer, crafting a unique experience of ongoing collaborative storytelling between Cyan and its players. It expanded the lore and history of the Dunny and the ages that civilization wrote, giving us access for the first time to the Great Cavern where they lived and died. And it opened the way for later MMOs to try new social features and game-building tools outside of mere combat, proving that not all online-capable games needed to be competitive in nature. URU was truly ahead of its time, and Cyan was in the perfect spot to make it at the time. Starting directly after Riven, they had plenty of capital to use on this. They were well-known indie devs and beloved to an entire generation of gamers and trusted by players to craft interesting worlds, deep characters, and tricky mind teasers to unravel. They had just inked an ambitious contract with Ubisoft and outsourced 2 coming games, Exile and Revelation, to smaller studios eager to tell stories in the Myst universe. The lore of the Dunny culture was unexplored and untapped, and Rand and RAWA both were more than ready to share and expand it with the fans' help, and the fans wanted to be part of it. Things were looking up, and URU was the culmination of Cyan's world building. It was going to be massive. It was going to revolutionize the fledgling arena of online co-op gaming. So what could have possibly gone wrong here? Why was URU's lifespan so messy, chaotic, and short? URU Ages Beyond Myst, and all iterations of it, was the game Cyan wanted to make. So why did it fail?
The concept of URU is to do what we've always done, but do it better. All we've ever wanted to do at Cyan Worlds is make more immersive worlds, make places that are more interesting to explore. And URU is the next evolutionary step in what we've always wanted to do.
URU and URU Live began life as an MMO project by Cyan, a real-time gaming experience that used a new engine called Plasma. Plasma was an early 3D real-time engine, and first used not just in testing for URU, but also by recreating Myst for the new millennium. This version of Myst, released in 2000, was called Real Myst, and it might seem primitive now, but it was quite revolutionary for its time. It had realistic weather and atmosphere effects, realistic water effects, full 3D movement, stereoscopic sound, and a real-time day-to-night cycle for every single age. Plus, it introduced the new age of Rime, which connects Myst to Riven a little bit better. This test then paved the way for the first iteration of what would become URU, codenamed Dirt, short for Dunny in Real Time. This version was single-player only, and features an exploration of the cleft going into the Great Shaft, an area we only truly later get to explore in End of Ages. The second test iteration was called Parable or Mud Pie, standing for Multi-User Dirt Player Interactive Experience, and would see further testing of co-op segments. Both Dirt and Mud Pie included the first iterations of the Caverns, the Great Shaft, the Cleft, and a test age called Ben's Cove that would eventually become Noloben in End of Ages. But it also included some interactables to test how the avatars moved and interacted together in Ages. After extensive testing, Cyan felt more confident that a multiplayer Myst was more than feasible, and work began in earnest on the development of URU Live. To help promote it, they started an ARG called Pre-After, something that's worth a whole video in itself, and I really don't have time to explain right now. With help from Ubisoft, who now held partial rights to Myst and was in the process of publishing Exile and Revelation, Cyan now had extensive resources at their disposal to truly create a unique and groundbreaking online game, the first of its kind. The first iterations of this, called Koru and URU, were open only to a select few, but eventually Prologue, the beta, would release as an invite-only version to the masses in 2003. URU Live Prologue first released in January 2004 with 2 shards, their name for the game's servers, named Atris and Katran, plus a private rehearsal shard that was invite-only. But a clerical error at Ubisoft mere weeks after the beta launched caused all pending invites to rehearsal to be given prematurely. The resulting overload of server signups strained both of the public shards, and resulted in rehearsal being renamed Akinar to help offset it. Unfortunately, this only proved to Ubisoft that URU Live wasn't ready yet, and in February 2004, all 3 shards were shut off, canceling URU Live in this form. The standalone URU, meanwhile, sold well enough on the Myst name alone, so while the Ubisoft servers shut down, Ubisoft asked Cyan to release other content as expansion packs for Ages Beyond Myst. These 2 packs, titled Tudani and The Path of the Shell, also sold decently well and kept the URU name alive. Meanwhile, the original URU Live beta players were despondent, seeking out other virtual chat communities like Second Life and Habbo for their needs. A fairly interesting research paper about online MMOs, which I've linked in the description below, was even published on this topic, calling these players digital nomads. An alternate Cyan-run client, however, was eventually released to the fans, titled Until Uru, from Sumerian words meaning keep the community alive. Consisting of a single shard called Damala, this gave URU Live fans hope that the game wasn't truly dead yet. Then, in 2006, Cyan was approached by GameTap, a pay-to-play all-you-like subscription service, a bit like Xbox Live Arcade for Windows, about reviving URU Live. As they worked on making this a reality, they closed the Damala shard in favor of a new shard named Agura, and launched it as an invite-only beta test called Nuru. No new story elements happened in this shard, but the players made their own fun anyway. Then, in 2007, the game relaunched under GameTap servers, calling itself Myst Online URU Live. The game lasted a few more years in this form, allowing for several storyline elements to occur with the Bahro. New shards opened, new content and plot began to happen, and new ages were added, including the game age of Jalak Dador and Minkata, a brand new age with a Dunny name meaning scarred. But it once more failed to accrue any interest, and this iteration only lasted until 2008. Cyan couldn't afford to run the servers or make more games anymore after this, and it looked as though this might be the end for the company. Cyan still had a slight contract agreement with Ubisoft, and Ubisoft ordered them to finish anything in progress and release it before severing ties and funding forever. Some of these ages would later be included, with some extra new ones and a new plot, in a final game in the series, Myst 5 End of Ages. But as for Uru, it seemed like it was curtains for good. URU Live's final shard would go dark for at least a few months. Cyan would retain only a skeleton crew for the game. And that was it. Or was it? Because, as we all know, with Myst fans in these games, the ending for Myst is rarely ever truly written. In 2010, Cyan was able to release the game as Myst Online URU Live again, hosted on Amazon AWS servers this time. Interest was so overwhelming that the servers crashed the first day and Cyan had to move to new, larger servers. Then in 2011, the game went open source, and several brand new shards for fan development alongside new development tools were made accessible to everyone, so that they could add to Dunny lore in their own ways, with the caveat being that anything new couldn't contradict any established lore, and that both Yisha and the Bahro were off limits for use. Some of these fan-made elements and ages, like Kalami and High Gardens, are pretty robust too, created whole cloth completely from the ground up with their own puzzles and designs. Now open for all, the game was fully in the hands of the fanbase for good, allowing new updates once again, despite no new story content. A massive server crash in 2014 caused major setbacks and wiped out several old Explorer avatars alongside game progress. Even still, Mola persisted. In 2015, the first fan-made clothing item was added. In 2019, Relto assets were made able to be modified. And in 2020, the first fan-made ages were added. The game currently receives small updates as needed from Cyan, and still has dedicated players. So in the end, the community did in fact find a way and make a home, didn't they?
Shora, Kefrith here. In addition to solving puzzles and exploring, URU served as a way for me to socialize more dynamically with friends from the DeviantArt Myst fan club, a highly active fanart group at the time, and one of which I still have fond memories. Anyway, as we once learned on Amateria, dynamic forces spur change, so when I finally had my first opportunity to attend the Mysterium convention in 2010, I couldn't have been more excited to meet several friends from the Cavern when I arrived at the con. Additionally, over the years I've been attending Mysterium regularly, since 2017, I've been fortunate enough to meet many other explorers who I'd known in the Cavern years earlier. I also have friends now who are active in the present-day URU age development community and other in-Cavern groups, so I really am long overdue to spend some more time in Denis.
Myst Online's story is complicated, and I personally wasn't there for it to begin with. But from what I've heard of it, and what the Guild of Archivists website tells about it, the story it wove was a complex tale of civil war, entrapment, death, chaos, and exploration. I've even linked the discussions and chat logs saved from the story as it happened below for those curious. But I wasn't there to begin with, and can't really tell you much about it. I'm sure others would tell the story better than I could, and I'm not sure I have time to discuss it here anyway. It'd pretty much be a whole video in itself just to cover the one season that URU Live had a massive story arc. You see, to tell its story, Cyan employees initially logged in whenever they could as characters relevant to the story, but because these appearances were so infrequent, the early days of URU Live were plagued with story difficulties. Explorers didn't know when to log in and see any part of the story, so to mitigate this, Cyan organized its appearances for the plot into seasons with episodes, with each one lasting about a week in length, and the majority of new ages and new content were also released about that time. Before this, new ages and journeys were added kind of randomly, with new collectibles to find added every so often as well. Unfortunately, due to the game's short lifespan, there was only ever the one season, comprised of 5 episodes. While a Season 2 and many other ages known as the Intangibles were planned, it never got off of the ground before the game was cancelled. But there is hope, despite how dire this seems. The Intangibles didn't go away. They're still around, sort of. They continue to be worked on to this day, with many of them and even new fan-made ones appearing in the Caverns every so often with regularity. Even without Cyan's continued work, the explorers have found a way and made a home. And Dunny continues to live and breathe like never before.
So imagine this situation. It's 2007. It was just after the DRC had opened up Curel. You're just there chilling and just hanging out with people, and you're not expecting anything to happen. But then suddenly, someone yells out, "Bahro!" And I mean, nobody's really thinking about it in terms of, oh, this is a gameplay event, or this is a story event, or we're all caught up in the thorough, in the moment, in cavern, in characterness of, we're just people hanging around, and suddenly a Bahro has appeared, and he's bopping around and basically playing hide and seek with everyone. Everyone's running around, and in the chaos of all of that, there's just me. There I am, just minding my own business, teenage me, and running around in Curel trying to see the Bahro at a distance. And in the process of this, I get shoved into one of the walls, almost. Somehow, my perspective is suddenly looking at a Bahro, because the Bahro is interposed between me and the wall, and all I can think is, oh god, I just ran into a Bahro, and I am immediately backing off from that. Like, I just ran into something that we know has very sharp and deadly claws, and if it is a mean-spirited sort of creature of the twisted factions disposition, and this whole Bahro civil war thing that we're only just starting to understand what's going on about. The thing that I thought the most about that was, it's smaller than I am. It is small, it is cute, it is adorable, but I really just want to respect its personal space, and I back away from it. And really, that's one of my fondest moments from the Game Tap era, I think.
It's understandable in retrospect why URU never truly took off with the vast majority of gamers, especially those early adopters of online gaming. When URU first released online, there were already games like RuneScape and the coming World of Warcraft winning the battle for the soul of online games, shifting the landscape from co-op to competitive and puzzle to adventure. Yes, puzzle elements and storytelling existed in those games, but those games became popular because they were more than just that. They offered more ways to explore, create, and fight back than in URU, which was arguably more creative. The time of adventure games was over. People were more cynical, and the standalone experience didn't really connect with nostalgia the way that the Myst games did. The standalone game, in fact, clearly shows how it's meant for online first and foremost. It feels really lonely wandering these big empty worlds, but not quite in the same liminal way that Myst enjoys, though it approaches that. There's also a fair few glitches involving frame rates and age stability, as well as the physics systems being a little bit janky and overly simple. Moving your explorer can feel stiff and awkward, especially notable on some ages. I'm looking at you, Eatergira. Then there's the fact that URU was so shut off as an online experience, and the standalone so easily missable, that not every fan got the chance to play, and new fans will never get the chance to play URU live as it was at all. I myself didn't ever get to play URU until I was an adult, since I rented these games from my local library and my library didn't own it. I skipped ahead to End of Ages, so I was really confused by the Bahro, and just never felt as tied to the Dunny or Yisha the way I had with Atris, Katran, Gen, the Brothers, or Savidro. It wasn't until URU Live became open source that I got a taste of that game, and even then, it was a hollowed out version, not the experience that everyone else got. I never got the chance to connect to URU in any way, and that shaped me differently than other Myst fans as a result. I will forever, in ages full of explorers and Dunny historians, be a stranger, part of the time of Atris, never the time of Yisha. But even still, I'm glad I took this journey. And, in the end, I think URU still has plenty of things it can teach us. Both what to do and what not to do in developing a game.
Comparing URU to other games out there on the market, I think, is very difficult because we're looking to do something completely new and completely different. This game is about exploration. It's about rich environments, detailed worlds. It's about story. It's about the history of the people that used to live in these environments.
URU's a cautionary tale about ambition and flying too close to the stars. For all its strengths, there was one fatal flaw. That flaw is that URU was the exact game Cyan wanted to make after Riven, the game Rand and RAWA chose to focus on instead of the gold of Myst that they already had. The ambition of creating the thing you want to make is noble, commendable even, But the problem with that is that no matter how popular your IP is, such a game can only ever be in its singular niche if it's made just for some people without accounting for anyone new to that game's concept. Gaming isn't a nerdy niche hobby anymore. Any game, including sequels, could be somebody's first. It's often said that a game for everyone is a game for no one, but I'm not sure that's completely true. It can equally be said that a game for only a certain group is also for no one, because nobody outside of that group will actually reliably play it as intended, and then the game's community will either become so inbred it dies, or the game becomes so altered by others that it turns into something it's not. No matter who it's intended for or what the developer's vision is, no game survives first contact with its players. Alone or together, a community will eventually find a way to make any game not for them into a game for them, crafting a home in it whether that niche fanbase or the creators like it or not. It's just pure hubris and arrogance to think otherwise. This is an unfortunate trend I've seen in Souls-likes, devs changing games after fan backlash to make it easier, and the constant tiresome argument about skill issue, and who challenging games are truly for. I see it in games like Silksong that spent so much time in development heaven, it might have locked out anyone not meshing with that game's elements, even if the person played other Metroidvanias before. I see it in Mugenics, a game made with a very specific irreverent style which is currently facing backlash not for its nature, but for including a certain infamous and divisive internet figure as a voice actor because the creator thought it would be relevant, which has sparked countless fights in that community already. I see it in Dead by Daylight and the scores of other Dead imitators it's had, both in how asymmetrical games fail when both sides aren't balanced well, and in how Dead by Daylight itself constantly seems to be unable to balance properly because it's just too big and ambitious for its own good. I see it in the debate about if mods are cheating and if games should have adjustable difficulty, that very gamer civil war that asks us, who is real gaming for? When does the Garo Hev tea of an age become so granular we've lost the forest for a few trees? Is it truly for our benefit if indie devs continue to entrench themselves into niches like this, making games that are so not for everyone that, like URU, they fail to thrive outside of small communities, even with all the hype in the world? I'm not sure I have the answer to those questions. I'm not sure anyone does. What I do know is that it's ultimately not a developer, not a world builder, not one person who makes a game what it is. Community is in fact the biggest part of why the games we love are the games we love. The very thing that makes or breaks a game itself, especially in online spaces. I think it falls to us as gamers, especially in older and co-op spaces like URU Live, to be the stewards that open our doors to newcomers and guide them, teach them, and help them keep the dream alive, even when developers can't. We hold fast to these games because they're a part of us, ours, playground realms for anyone up to their challenge or intrigued by their concepts to enjoy. These places aren't really for the devs or certain groups. They are, for better or worse, ultimately for all of us, and the communities we build around them to play in. So, why are we entrenching and having arguments about this anyway? Wouldn't it be so much better as gamers if we stopped worrying about skill issue and what is or isn't the right way to play a game, and instead focused on making our communities better, more welcoming places that anyone who's up to it can feel called to make a home in? I think that sounds like a lot more fun. Don't you, my friend?
Beyond URU is URU Live, and actually building in the ability to move from a single player, wonderful experience, very naturally flow into a persistent world with other people playing that never ends, has been an incredible challenge. That concept of a world that never ends is striking. It seems like it would be a natural thing and the world would just go that way, but it's amazing how much you have to fight to build that realness into a world. It's something that was a huge challenge, but also I think I'm most proud of the fact that we were able to pull that off.